I never thought a single night could change everything, but when she walked into my room, something was different simming. Wasaf Elena had always been my cousin Theon. I grew up with the one who knew all my secrets, but that night she wasn't just me. Cousin, she was something else. It was a family gathering at our grandparents' house, the kind where everyone stayed over. Crammed into different rooms, I had just finished a long conversation with some relatives and slipped away to my room hoping for some peace. The night outside was still, the dim yellow glow of bedside lamp casting soft shadows onto walls. I had barely laid down when there was a soft knock on the door. Come in. I called out expecting one of my uncles or my father, but when the door opened, it was her. Elena stepped inside, closing the door behind her quietly, and then she locked. I sat up immediately, my pulse quickeningly. Did she lock the door? She stood there for a moment, leaning against the wood, her dark hair cascading over her shoulder. Her eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite read. It wasn't the usual playfulness I had always associated with her. It was something deeper, something unsettling. I couldn't sleep, she said, her voice softer than usual. A frown. Since when did she have trouble sleeping? You could have stayed in your room, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. She took a slow step forward, the dim light catching the curve of her face. I didn't want to be alone. A strange silence filled the room, my chest tightened. She was acting different, calmer, yet more intense. You know we can't. I started, but she cut me off. Can't what? She whispered, tilting her head. My breath hitched the way. She looked at me. It wasn't Cousin Lithis. Night was going to be dangerous. It should have told her to leave. I should have stood up, unlocked the door, and done whatever this was before Evan started, but I didn't. Instead, I sat there watching her. Elena wasn't just my cousin. She was Simeon. I had shared my childhood with summers at our grandparents' house, snaking into the kitchen at midnight, toast-steel sweets, whispering secrets under blankets. During family trips, we wear close, maybe too close, but never like this. Tonight, the air between us felt different. She took another step forward, her bare feet silent against the wooden floor. Her nightgown was loose, slipping off one shoulder just slightly enough to make my pulse hammer harder. The dim lamp painted her face in golden shadow, making her look unreal. You always keep your door unlocked, she murmured, dragging her fingers along the edge of my desk. As she looked past it, not anymore, I said, my voice lower than I intended. She smiled, soft, knowing why, she asked, pausing near my bed. I swallowed hard. Why? Because of Yao, because of whatever this is. Elena, what her you doing? She tilted her head, considering my words, and then, as if she had made a decision, she sat on the edge of my bed. I told you I couldn't sleep. I ran a hand through my hair, forcing my gaze away. This is wrong. This is a bad idea. Then go back to your room, I said, trying to sound firm. She exhaled, shaking her head. I don't want to. The room felt smaller. The locked door bent her was a silent warning. My own body betrayed me, every nerve alert, every breath the aviar. You're making this weird, I muttered, standing up, needing space, but reached out and grabbed my wrist. The touch sent a sharp current up my arm. I froze, as she whispered, her fingers tightened around my skin, delicate yet unyielding. She wasn't just playing a game, she was waiting for something. Tell me to leave, she said. I opened my mouth. I should have told her to go. I should have pushed her hand away, but the words wouldn't come, because deep down I knew the truth. I didn't want her to leave, and the moment she realized it, that everything changed. She should have pulled away. I should have told her to stop, but I didn't. Elena's fingers tightened around my wrist, hurt out, warm, almost daring me to react. My body stiffened, every instinct warning method. This was a line we weren't supposed to cross, but the way she looked at me like she was waiting for something. Midi, impossible to move. You're not saying anything, she whispered, tilting her head slightly, her dark hair slipping over her shoulder. I swallowed hard because I didn't know what to say. The air felt thick, charged with something unspoken, something neither of us had ever acknowledged before. Elena, we shouldn't. Then stop, Mesha interrupted. She was challenging me, testing the boundaries we had never dared to touch before, and I hated Helmick. I hesitated, my hand twitched under hers, and for a second I thought about pulling away, about breaking whatever this was before it shattered everything when you, but she wasn't letting go. Instead, she moved closer, her knee brushed it against mine. Her scent, vanilla and something faintly floral, filled my senses, making it even harder to think. Why do you look so nervous? She eased, her voice softer, now almost playful. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head, because this isn't normal. Elena Chesnelled, slow, knowing. Maybe it's not, she admitted, her fingers tracing absently over the back of my hand. But you're not pushing Niwe. I clenched my jaw. That doesn't mean it means everything, she whispered. Theory of her words settled between us. My pulse was hammering against my ribs, my mind screaming at me to do something to break the moment before it went too far. But the truth, it had already gone too far. Elena moved first, slowly, carefully. She lifted her hand and let her fingers brush against my jaw, a touch so light, so uncertain, it sent a shiver down my spine. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. Her gaze flickered To my lips for half a second, just long enough for me to talk no notice, just long enough for my breath to hitch. Do you want me to leave? She is skeety. Should have Sadie's, but when I opened my mouth, the all-mithing that came out was silence and that's sealed our fate. The silence between us stretched thick and suffocating, wrapping around us like a scrat too dangerous to say out loud. Elena's fingers lingered on my jaw, her dark feather, hesitant but not afraid. Her eyes searched mine, waiting, daring. Meadow, make the next move, but I couldn't because the moment I did, there will be no turning back. You're thinking too much, she whispered, tilting her head slightly. I exhaled, running a hand through my hair, trying to clear the gauze in my head. What do you expect me to do, Elena? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she let her fingers slide down from my jaw, tracing the edge of my collarbone before she pulled back completely. A slow, knowing smile tugged at her lips, and something about it maddened me. Stomach clench. I don't expect anything, she murmured. I just want to know if you feel it too. My heart slammed against my ribs. Feel what? The air was too thick to charge every second. Stretching umbrella long, my throat felt dry, my body tensed like a live wire. You should go, I muttered, finally finding my voice. But even I didn't believe it. She sighed, soft, almost famous. That's not an answer. She turned it slightly, her bare shoulder catching the thin glow of the lamp, the curve of her neck, the way her night gown slipped just an inch too low. It was enough to make Mesha fuck comfortably. You're acting like something's wrong, she said, crossing her arms. I let out a humorless laugh. Because nothing is. She raised an eyebrow, stepping forward again, closing the space between us. Then stop me, she kept saying that over and over as if she knew I wouldn't. I swallowed, my jaw tightened. You don't get it, Ellen. If it make me understand. The challenge in her voice sent another pulse of heat through me. She wasn't playing games anymore. She was waiting for me. I stood there, fist clenched, breath uneven. She was my cousin, but tonight she was just that. Say it, she whispered. Say you don't feel it. I opened my mouth. The words have come easily. They should have left my lips without hesitation, without doubt, but they didn't. And when she took on last steps, so close I could feel her breath on my skin, my resolve shattered. I didn't push her away. I pulled her closer. The moment I pulled her closer, I knew this was it. The point of no return. Elena supped in a breath, her body stiffening for a fraction of a second, buffer melting into mine. Her hands rested lightly against my chest, as as if she was waiting for me to change my mind, as if she was waiting for me to stop this before it went any further. But he didn't. My fingers hovered at her waist, barely touching her, yet the heat between us was unbearable. I could feel the frantic beat of my heart, the weight of her gaze locked onto mine, searching, waiting. You didn't push me away, she murmured. I swallowed hard. No, her lips parted slightly, and she exhaled a shaky breath. I could hear it, feel it against me skin. The closeness was suffocating. Jantaka, then what happens now? She used her voice softer than before. I didn't have an answer because the truth was I wasn't thinking anymore. I wasn't thinking about our family, about what this meant, about how complicated things will get. I wasn't thinking about that fact that just a few hours ago she was me cousin. Nothing more. All I could think about was her, the way she was looking at me, the way she wasn't stopping me. And then she did something that sent everything crashing down. She reached up slowly, deliberately, and traced her fingertips along my jaw, a touch so simple, yet it unraveled everything inside me. I always wondered, she whispered, tilting her head, slightly wondered what. My voice came out rough, strained, her lips curled into a smile. What you do if I got this close? I let out a breath. I didn't realize I was holding. You don't have to wonder anymore, I murmured. And then before either of us could think, before the weight of what we were doing could stop us, Elena moved first. Her lips brushed against my skin so light I almost convinced myself I imagined it, but the sharp inhale she took right after told me she felt it toey. Closed my eyes for half a second, trying to anchor myself. Stop this now before it's too late. But it was already too late, because when I opened my eyes she was still there, still waiting, still daring me to make the next move, and God help me I did. The second my lips brushed against hers, the world outside this room ceased to exist. No family, no consequences, no guilt, just the unbearable heat between us. The reckless way her fingers curled against me shirt, and the soft, unsteady breath she released, as if she had been waiting for this moment just as long as I had. Elena didn't hesitate this time. She pressed forward, her body molding against mine, her hands sliding at my arms as if she was trying to memorize every inch off. My grip tightened around her waist, the warmth of her skin beneath the thin fabric of her nightgown, making it even harder to think. I should stop. I should push her away, but stopping me, admitting this was wrong, and if I admitted that, if I said it out loud, it would shatter something between us that could never be repaired. So I didn't stop. Instead, I deepened the kiss, my fingers tangling in her hair as a quiet, breathy sound Escaped her lips the sound alone, a shiver down my spine, my heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to break free. You don't regret this, do you? She murmured between breaths, her forehead resting against mine. I should have said yes. I should have. Lead, but when I looked into her eyes, dark and full of something I couldn't name, the truth clawed its way up my throat before I could stop it. No, her lips parted slightly, and she swallowed, her fingers gripping the fabric of my shirt tighter than either. The way she said it, so soft, so certain, sent another wave of heat through me. My hand slid up her back, feeling every curve, every shiver thatching through her body. This changes everything, I muttered. Digno, a pause, the weight of what we had just unsettled between us, but neither office moved away. If anything, she pressed it closer, as if she already knew. There was no one doing this, no pretending it never happened, because the truth was it had been waiting to happen for a long time, and now that it finally had, there was no going back. The silence between us was no longer awkward, it was Shivi charged, like an unspoken promise neither of us dared to break. Elena's breath was still uneven, her lips slightly swollen from the kiss we couldn't take back, and yet she didn't look away, neither did I. She traced slow, deliberate patterns on my chest, her fingers feather-light yet burning with every tick. So what now? She whispered. I exhaled sharply, my grip on her waist tightening for just a second before I forced myself to ease it. You told me, she smiled, but it wasn't teasing, it was something else, something I wasn't ready. Tone on me, you know this doesn't change who wear it, doesn't it? My voice came out rough, strained, her expression softened, and for the first time I saw it. The fear clawing at my insides, reminding me that we had just crossed a line that couldn't be erased, that whatever we had done here tonight wouldn't stay in this room. It would follow us, haunt us, and yet neither of us was pulling away. Maybe it does change everything, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, but maybe that's not a bad thing. I ran a hand down my face, trying to think, trying to breathe through the madness of it all, but when my eyes met hers again, I knew that no matter how much I tried to fight this seed, didn't want to, you should go, I finally muttered at the words tasted like Ali. Elena studied me for a moment, then nodded. Slowly she stepped back, and the absence of her warmth was immediately leaving my skin cold, my body tense, but before she turned to leave, she hesitated. We don't have to regret this, said softly. I swallowed hard, my heart slamming against my ribs. Maybe Westhold, she smiled, a sad, knowing smile, but we won't. And then she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving me alone in the dim glow of the room, theory of what just happened pressing down on my chest like a secret too heavy to carry. She was my cousin, but tonight she was something else.